My personal history with Afghanistan, I didn't get there until 2003 for my first tour. I held one of my friend's hands as he died in the old cache when it was a tent. We had a satellite phone next to his ear, listening to his wife cry out to him and to God because she knew that she'd never see her husband alive again. When this started happening, I could not sleep. My wife told me just to go back to Afghanistan, so I linked up with one of the groups you referred to in your testimony, and I wound up in Abu Dhabi and Dubai processing people that civilians extracted with the help of a foreign government, because our government willfully and knowingly abandoned American citizens and our allies to terrorists. So I got a couple questions for you guys. Was there a written plan for this exfiltration? Colonel?
I did not see a written plan for the exfiltration for this specific mission.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure there were orders given, though.
Right, reading through here, you were planning you were building an airplane flight. Okay, we had X amount of years to figure this out. Everybody from the Biden administration says their hands were tied because of the Doha agreement, so they should have known that something was happening. And when I say the Biden administration, I mean Secretary Blinken, General Austin, now SecDef, and General Milley. They are all culpable in the deaths of all of these people because they are incapable of doing their jobs. Everybody, I'm a retired Navy SEAL. Sorry, I should have thrown that out there. So I understand that NEOs are the purview of the State Department, and they waited so long to turn this NEO authority over to the DOD to activate it. They're responsible for all these people's deaths. That is a fact. Have any of you, in your vast military experience, ever heard of a plan where you would intentionally withdraw all the military forces that are protecting civilians out before you would pull the civilians out? Anybody?
No.
Colonel? Other colonel, rather?
The Douglas MacArthur said that every military disaster can be described in 2 words. Too late.
Very well. Command Sergeant Major?
No, sir.
We've long said President Biden is to blame for the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan. Now the State Department agrees. A new report is condemning the commander-in-chief's decision during the withdrawal. But if you ask Biden, he insists he's done a good job. Take a listen.
Remember what I said about Afghanistan? I said Al-Qaeda would not be there. I said it wouldn't be there. I said we'd get help from the Taliban. What's happening now? What's going on? Read your press. I was right.
But according to his own State Department, there was insufficient senior-level consideration of worst-case scenarios and how quickly those might follow.
The idea that they didn't plan for this and they were caught off guard was absolutely evident in the way things planned out. I didn't need the State Department to tell me that. This report, it's important because it will go into the records of history and it makes it that much harder to run away from it. But we saw in that clip how unashamed he will still absolutely run away from it. And that's what bothers me. If you're the President of the United States, you've told 330 million people, I am a leader. I will hold myself accountable and I will be there for you. You let 13 service members die on what should not have been a battlefield. And for him to act that way is the most dishonorable thing I've seen in regards to this specific issue in my life.
Why, in your opinion, did the Biden administration continue to lie about the number of American citizens that they willfully abandoned to terrorists in Afghanistan?
I couldn't even begin to speculate.
Are you willing to accept the fact that the Biden administration kept moving the ball and lying about the amount of American citizens they abandoned to terrorists in Afghanistan, knowingly and willingly?
I'll say that the statements that came out from the administration did not match the facts that we were clearly seeing on the ground.
Okay, Colonel.
I was very troubled that I believe 90% of the evacuees were not people who had were not Afghans who had worked for the U.S. government or the U.S. military.
Getting there.
The fact that you have President Biden who is standing there when he's asked about that, he has the opportunity to talk about the mistakes and the devastations that ensued, but he does his creepy whisper, I'm right. I'm right.
And read your press.
This continues to go what has happened throughout the course of his administration. They don't take culpability for COVID, the vaccines, and all of these other things that have harmed Americans.
Joey is speaking for those 13 dead servicemen who didn't have to die. A chaotic situation which didn't have to be this way, was created by this administration. Now they're admitting niggling mistakes like they didn't know who had the lead on the evacuation efforts. Well, that is mind-blowing. You don't know who has the lead? They didn't make, senior officials didn't decide who was at risk, what Afghans were at risk, and who to airlift out. These are kind of major things if you're doing an evacuation of a country. They didn't do that. They failed not only our allies there, but most importantly, our servicemen. And they created an international chaos that has made us vulnerable on the world stage. All of that, he should take absolute, he should say, I am to blame for this.
How many of our NATO allies wanted to follow this timeline and get out of Afghanistan on the arbitrary timeline that the Biden administration set? How many of our NATO allies wanted to go on that timeline, to the best of your knowledge, Colonel?
None that I know of.
Colonel?
I'm not privy to that.
Okay, I am. The answer is 0. Nobody wanted to leave from NATO. This has been a NATO fight for a very long period of time, and you guys didn't even address this. So this would have fractured NATO. It's unbelievably irresponsible that the Biden administration would completely blow off all of our NATO allies. None of them wanted to leave. So they're lying. And here's the most important question I can ask anybody here. Who has been fired for this?
No one.
Colonel, to your knowledge?
No one that I know of.
Okay, so this is the most disgraceful thing that I can think of that the United States government has ever done in our entire history, and 0 people have been held accountable from the Biden administration. 0, right? How about the military writ large? 0. Who was the ground force commander? What's he doing now? You guys know? Do you? Do you know who it was?
Yeah, Admiral Vaisley, and then it was General Donahue. I will say, in their defense, they were given an impossible situation, and they showed extraordinary leadership when every single aspect of what was going on turned into total chaos for things that were outside of their control.
I get it. Senator Tom Cotton, when he was questioning General Milley, asked him one thing. He said, why have you not resigned yet? And General Milley said he thought it would be a profoundly political statement. I wish that my friend Tom Cotton, who I respect gratefully, did one more follow-up question. General Milley, if intentionally abandoning American citizens and our allies to terrorists, many of them to certain death, is not worth making a political statement, what, in your estimation, General Milley, is? None of these people that are there, and we're giving them passes. I'm not. These general officers and flag officers should have resigned on the spot, gone on television, and said this is wrong. You know what that takes? That takes courage. We have so many things wrong with our military at the senior levels and in the Biden administration. It's embarrassing. These people, I'm calling for them to resign. General Milley should not have a retirement. He should not. General Austin should be, I don't know what the heck he should be doing, but he sure as hell should not be leading our military. He's a disgrace.